Welcome to Starcourt Lounge's first episode of our podcast. My name is Justin, and joining me today is
Jason.
So yeah, as we were kind of talking about before we hit record and began, we kind of dabble in video making for YouTubes in the Let's Play realm, and I've been putting together some Let's Play footage for Fallout New Vegas. And for that, I bought a 4 terabyte hard drive for the whole sake of storing my videos.
Because files get really big if it's HD video and you don't compress them, which is really nice for editing to not have them compressed because the files just play nicer that way. But
it is not so nice for your hard drive.
No, it is not. Because before I decided editing videos was going to be too much work for me and I decided I was going to go the streaming route, I had recorded some footage of the forest. And, it was just like a Saturday, Sunday morning, and I just wanted to record just to have something to play around with to figure out the video editing software that I had.
Some trial and error stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I just had some, so I was, just playing around talking as if it was like an actual episode for a Let's Play. And after I was done, I didn't realize how long I had been going. And I looked at the file size. The file size was like 80 gigs.
Oh my. How long were you recording?
It was a while. I don't remember.
Several hours?
It was probably like a couple hours.
Oof.
Because it was, it was during my time of working retail. So, when you work retail, your days off are few and far between. So when you do have days off, you do fucking nothing.
I totally get that. But yeah, I got that 4 terabyte hard drive just for the whole sake of storing my videos. But the way I do my video recording is that I have it record and save all the raw footage initially to my SSD for the sole sake is it's got the better write speeds.
Okay, yeah.
And then after I'm done recording for like editing purposes and for storage, because my SSD is like 256 gigs or something like that. Not huge. I put it over
just
to
like an OS boot drive.
For sure. I moved that over to my recordings drive so I can do edits, rendering, all that kind of crap, and then export it.
Or you could be me and just build your computer with one terabyte SSD, and then when you run out of space on that SSD for Steam games that you almost never play and then end up deleting anyway, and you'd only then you just buy another 1 terabyte SSD to put in your computer, and then when that isn't enough, you just get a 5 terabyte HDD external hard drive to then almost never put games on it because games take fucking forever to load on a normal disk hard drive.
Yeah, that's all fine and great, but there's a funny thing about SSDs is that they ain't cheap, especially when you get into those terabytes. Yeah. I will say.
I paid like $800 for hard drives for my computer. And those are just the SSDs.
I will say, though, they have come down in price a fair amount.
It depends.
They're still pricey.
Because you can find 1 terabyte SSDs for like $200.
Yeah.
But they're not amazing. Because I think mine are Samsung 850 EVOs.
Okay. I think that's what I've got.
So yeah, they're just Samsung, so they're pretty expensive. But I mean...
Yeah, I've got like a 256 gig Samsung SSD for like my boot drive.
Yeah.
And then I've got like 2, I think, Seagate Barracudas, like a 3 and a 4 terabyte for like file storage, recordings, and all that kind of stuff. And my 3 terabyte is almost entirely full.
Games? That you never play on Steam?
No, there's a fair amount of games on there that I just don't like really play because time is not unlimited.
You don't get a lot of off days working retail.
That is a large part of it. But when Grandpa moved back, he had that external terabyte of like all of his classical music and jazz music. Yep. And like, awesome. We get a bunch of cool music. Yeah. And I didn't expect it to be like 2 terabytes of music.
Yup.
So I was gonna put it on the SSD, and it's like, you don't have enough room. I'm like, okay. I'll just put it on my 3 terabyte.
Yep.
2 terabytes later, I'm like, oh, not what I was expecting. And I just haven't gone through and like to see what's actually in there that I actually like and pared it down. Because I think there's a bunch of country that I'm like, I probably don't care much about.
Yeah.
And most of the stuff I do audio-wise is either Spotify or YouTube Music. So streaming
Quick
or podcasts.
talking about country music, I have a quick aside to that, and I have it's a theory of mine that I have of why a lot of people don't like country.
Okay.
Is the genre of country music hasn't like changed and evolved as much as other genres of music have. Like, if you listen to pop music now versus pop music in like the 60s, it's totally different.
For sure.
Versus like country music now versus country music in like the 30s, 40s, 50s. The only difference is like the amount of like tracks that are going on, like the beats feel more like they substantial. There's a lot more drums to it, and there really hasn't been much evolution in country music.
Yes and no. Like, there's a distinct shift in like old outlaw country, like Willie Nelson, Johnny Cash, to more modern country. Yes, they have more tracks and layerings and drum, but more modern country, I feel, has more of a rock basis than it does like your traditional country western. But
whereas the country western, like of the old, is more like blues.
For sure, it's got more of a blues influence. Where now it's more of like rock, and even more so, you're seeing more hip hop influence on the country music.
Yeah,
and it doesn't help the genre in the slightest that the most prevalent like subgenre of country that you hear on like
country.
What's that?
You mean bro country?
Yeah, you took the words right from it. Is bro country, which is just
Solo Cup,
objectively awful,
atrocious. Like, don't get me wrong, I enjoy me some Toby Keith, especially like early 2000s Toby Keith.
There's a level of nostalgia for that. Yes.
I remember you used to fucking love Toby Keith. We even went to go, like, the one concert I ever went to until I went to like a couple at Summerfest.
Yeah.
Was a Toby Keith concert.
For sure. And that was, I think, at like the Bradley Center or something like that.
Yeah, it was at the Bradley Center, and I remember, God, who was the opening?
It was Nugent. It was
Ted
the Nuge. Because he shot the bow and arrow on stage.
I remember that, yeah.
Some classic Merca.
Cat scratch fever.
Which is like very bizarre to have like an 80s, objectively speaking, rock act open for a country act. Even though Nugent is like very kind of like, I would say, in a political or like personal sense, in that kind of country-ish sphere.
While it's not necessarily the same kind of genre of music, I think the overlap of the listeners for Toby Keith
and Nugent are
and the
same.
listeners for Nugent, I think there's some overlap in that Venn diagram there. Enough for it to be like an opening act that would make sense.
It's not like Paris Hilton opening for Five Finger Death Punch, where there's like
wait, did Paris Hilton do music?
She does. She's a DJ.
Really?
She played at Summerfest in 2015, 2014.
Good for her, destroying the stereotype of her being a worthless heiress to a fucking
from
Hilton hotel.
Yeah, from what I've heard, like the character of Paris Hilton that she plays in like reality shows is vastly different than like the actual real life Paris Hilton. Like, she's fairly intelligent and competent at things, and is a DJ. I still don't really care.
When I think DJ, I only think EDM, and I don't really like EDM or dubstep. So a lot of like DJ music, I just don't like.
For sure. Well, that's kind of all pop is.
The late 2000s, early 2010s was some dark years for my music. Wasn't a lot going on that I enjoyed.
No, and that's kind of all pop music is nowadays too, is like what used to be you have your verse, and then you have your chorus, now is verse and then your bass drum.
It's a lot more like hip hop, where you don't have a chorus really. You have more like you have a hook.
Yeah.
That you repeat throughout the song. That's supposed to like hook people's attention. It's supposed to be the thing that you remember, and then you have your verses that you go into, and that's kind of more where pop music is, because with hip hop becoming much more mainstream popular, especially after like the 90s with NWA.
Yeah. The mix of hip hop influences and EDM influences has pushed and shifted pop music as a genre, which is by its very nature homogenous and very samey, into a realm of where it used to be like pop punk, emo punk, MCR, those kinds of groups. It used to be your pop music in the like late 2000s.
The
it is
grunge era.
Yeah, where it was like, here's our verse, and then here's a chorus, and now
then here's another verse.
Yeah.
And then like here's another chorus, and then like here's a bridge,
and then the final verse chorus. Now it's you have a verse, and then you build up, and this is where the EDM influence comes is where you have your build up to the verse to that bass drop
to that drop, then you have the hook, and then you go back to a lot of pop music really just kind of has a hook, and you just kind of keep hammering that hook.
Yep.
You have like maybe like a half verse here and there,
and you maybe
just
change
keep
the
going
hook.
to the hook.
You maybe change it a little bit so it's not like.
And then you add in like maybe a key change or maybe a different sort of
modulation or something. Yeah. And that's pretty much unanimous across pop music, but that's kind of the purpose of pop music is to sell the same sound from different artists, essentially. Yeah.
And Which is why you see things like Michael Jackson selling millions upon millions of albums, and the music is still kind of like, it didn't age too badly, but then you go to a band like Queen or the Beatles, and their music didn't age as well.
It's very of its time, but I think part of that too, especially Beatles, is that they were pushing the envelope and developing a lot of these techniques that laid foundational aspects for pop music down the road. So like they're going to have like Day in the Life. Yeah. Like what other song sounds like a day in the life?
What I really enjoy about some of like the Beatles music, especially in during their like studio only days,
when they stopped touring after like 3 years or whatever it was.
Just quick aside about that. I remember I think it was Paul was saying how, I think it was Shea Stadium, when they played Shea Stadium, he was saying how like he couldn't even hear himself playing.
That I'm pretty sure that was Shea Stadium.
Yeah, and I enjoy that there could have been multiple instances where people paid for tickets to go see the Beatles,
and you couldn't hear them.
I more so enjoy the fact that they might not have been actually playing. Like, they weren't even playing their instruments, just pantomiming playing their instruments, but you couldn't tell because of the screaming fans.
So they were lip syncing and instrument syncing.
Yeah.
And that was a problem that persisted through the rest of their touring phases, and then that's why they went studio only.
Yeah. Until they had their weird like rooftop concert.
Oh, for the Let It Be album?
Yeah.
They're like, screw all of you. We're going to perform on a rooftop.
Yeah.
Come at us.
But no, I enjoy the later Beatles music during like the Sgt. Pepper.
The more experimental stuff.
Yeah, how they didn't really have like a chorus or a hook. They just kind of like what's this? For the Benefit of Mr. Kite, I think it was. No, that one's definitely got like a chorus.
Some of them, like Day in the Life, doesn't really have a straight chorus. It's
or
just
more
like
of it was more like they would write. It almost felt like they would write like poetry and then write songs.
Like write a poem and then write music to it.
Kind of like When I'm 64 kind of had that vibe to it.
Okay, I can see that.
There's another one that I'm trying to think of, because there was back in like 8th grade for English class, we had to do something where we had to take a song and then we had to like find like the chorus and all that shit, and we had to like write like a poem or something about it. I don't exactly remember it, but I chose a Beatles song.
Was it off the Sgt. Pepper's album?
I think so, yeah.
Trying to think of some of the other big ones. There's the Sgt. Pepper's and Sgt. Pepper's Reprise, Day in the Life, which is essentially 2 songs put in one, like that whole middle bridgey section.
Yeah.
Well, like, completely unrelated to the rest of the song. It was like just an alarm clock. It's like, oh yeah, we're in a different thing now.
Yep.
And then there was Think When I Was 64 was on that one.
Yeah.
Little Help from My Friends. That was like a really good album.
It was a little more obscure, I think. More along the lines of like For the Benefit of Mr. Kite. I think it might have been Mr. Kite.
That one's been a while since I've like listened to it or like looked at the track list.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, I would say, one of their like more out there albums.
Yeah. I remember sitting down just to look at like the cover art for that album, just trying to pick out all of the
little
the
Easter
people
egg.
I recognized.
For sure. Well, and kind of touch it, like we were talking about, like how Beatles and like some of the Queen music didn't necessarily like quote unquote age as I guess gracefully, or not gracefully, but it's very of its time.
It's something like if you have Queen or the Beatles as part of your playlist, it's like I only listen to like this like era of music, kind of, and only things that have that sound, versus like Michael Jackson's music. I feel like you could put that into a playlist of modern music and it would fit in pretty well.
Yes. I think part of that too is that maybe a lot of the, I guess, tropes and things that are used in more modern pop music were
kind of
expanded upon and pioneered
by Michael
Jackson.
Yeah.
Because like,
you mean the king of pop was instrumental in making what modern pop is?
Who would have thought? Because like Queen, they were a successful band.
Yeah.
But their like biggest mainstream, like outside of the rock sphere, like hit was Bohemian Rhapsody. I would argue. There was also like We Will Rock You, which is just like a stadium.
We Will Rock You. They had Bicycle,
I guess.
They had Under Pressure.
Under Pressure with Bowie, yeah. That one I would argue, but like a lot of their other ones, like We Will Rock You and some of that, I don't think was necessarily like
We Are the Champions.
Yeah. Those were more like sports arena songs, like here's our sports team's war chant, and when we win, we are the champions and stuff like that. I think the only one that really, at least in my mind, crossed over into like the top 40 sphere of their era was Bohemian Rhapsody, which is weird because that's like a 6.5 minute long song, which is just kind of unheard of.
That's another one. That's like another one. That's like 3-4 different songs put into one.
Yeah,
because you have your beginning like ballad to it, and then all of a sudden you go to like this opera,
and then you go back to like a
power ballad at the end.
And like they could get away with it because they had Freddie Mercury and his like godlike vocals.
Yeah, dude. I was just talking to when we went to the bar last night with my buddies.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to them about Bohemian Rhapsody, and you know how when you say a word too much and it stops sounding like a word, it just sounds like gibberish.
It just loses all meaning. Yeah,
I kind of feel like Bohemian Rhapsody has reached the musical equivalent of that. I have heard the song so much that it just becomes homogeneous sound that I just kind of don't even listen to.
It's just noise.
Yeah.
I can get that.
It stopped being like a song to my brain.
Yeah.
And now it's just a noise.
I get that. I can see that with like some music. I've had that experience, but there's also like some songs where like you learn to play them.
With like Bohemian Rhapsody, it like I feel pretty confident in saying it is that way for like everybody, because it's like the number one masterpiece song that a lot of people would agree on, that everyone has heard.
Yeah, that one is like, I think you're going to be more hard pressed to find someone who hasn't heard of Bohemian Rhapsody, whether it's the Queen version or like Panic's version or some other version of it.
Yeah.
Because like I've had songs like that where it's like it just turns to noise, but I also feel like some songs, like like when you learn how to play them,
Yeah.
you gain a new appreciation of it, and
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I know that part, and you can like see the crafting behind it, and it's not just like, oh, here's these guitar chords or this drum beat.
Yeah, the most recent song like that for me was "Kiss from a Rose" by Seal.
Oh my god,
I love that song. I go through periods of time where I'll find like a song that I enjoy, so I have a playlist for them on Spotify. It's called my favorites playlist.
Okay.
Spotify, you don't know my actual favorites. Just shut up. But I have on there Swing Life Away, Kiss from a Rose, I See Fire, Rocket Man, Wish You Were Here, If by Chance by Ruth B, then Toss a Coin to Your Witcher.
It's a good variety.
Yeah.
Love some Pink Floyd in there.
They're the songs that I enjoy singing to, that fit well within my vocal register, and also songs that once I heard them and I get obsessed with hearing that song, and I become obsessed with learning the words to the song, and then also learning how to play the song, like on guitar.
Right.
And then I play it, hear it, listen to it, sing it to myself so much that I end up hating the song.
I've had a feel like that too, yeah.
And now, like, all of those songs, like Swing Life Away, I haven't listened to Rise Against since I was in middle school. But now I can go back and listen to some of those songs because it's been years since I've listened. Well, so now it's like a new like rediscovering. Yeah. Which is, I will say, Spotify, good job with your rewinds, like year rewinds.
For sure.
Yeah, like 2016, 2017, 2018, like
spot on.
Yeah. But also like all of those years, like 2016 and 2017 have 2016 has some good variety of artists in it. But starting with 2017 and 2018 and 2019, you can definitely tell I really only listened to one artist.
You hit your niche.
Yeah. Because like 2016, you could get some like 21 Pilots, some Eminem.
Yeah.
Some weird songs that I heard on the radio that I enjoyed, like Down by Marion Hill.
Oh my God, I forgot about that song.
Then like 2017, it's like Eminem. And like 2018, it was 20. I don't remember what 2018 was. It was like a single artist, but I don't remember who it was. 2019 was just Billie Eilish, basically. I definitely got more.
It became what artist did I like most that year?
Yeah. Well, because the way I find music to listen to is I find, like, I'll be going through, like, watching YouTube videos or something, and someone will mention a song they'll start playing a snippet of a song by this artist, and I'm like, oh, I like that sound. Then I'll go find on Spotify, I'll just go and download a playlist of that entire discography for that artist.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I think if 2018 was Black Bear.
Okay.
That I've been getting back into him. I really like it.
Spotify also does a really good job of, like, when you're finished with an album, of like, then it enters radio mode, and then it's going to play songs that are similar genre-wise or artist-wise. It's like, and then it's just like a feedback loop of like, I like this sound, and here's more music of this sound by these artists.
This is, it's a good feature, but I personally don't really like it because I would rather just loop the album.
Oh, the radio feature, you mean?
Forever, yeah.
Yeah.
I would rather just loop the album forever.
Makes sense.
Because I get into super obsessive streaks. Like, I only want to hear, like, this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Like, which is why I'll go through and I'll just download a playlist of the entire catalog of an artist's music.
Right.
Because it's like hours of music that I can listen to of this one single artist with this one single sound, basically.
Right. And then you don't have to worry about, like, 30 minutes into your listening time, and then all of a sudden there's like this weird else. There's this weird aberrant song that's like, how the hell did you end up here?
Because I go through like artists the same way I find like watch videos from new YouTubers. I'm very apprehensive to start watching a new YouTuber or start listening to a new artist,
Yeah.
which is why I kind of rely on just kind of experiencing like new and weird songs when I'm like out like with friends. I hear something on the radio, or someone plays a song in a bar or something like that.
And you're like, ooh, I like that.
And then like, I like that sound. What artist is that? And then I go look up the artist, and it seemed like, oh, they had some other songs that I've enjoyed in the past, or something like that.
I'm very much the same way, where I'm like, I find like an artist or some sort of like genre or subgenre that I like, and I'm gonna kind of stick within that like realm. Like lately, after watching the Hamilton musical on Disney Plus, I've been listening to that album a lot.
Yeah,
because it's like there's a lot of layers. And it's a well-crafted musical.
Yeah. It's not a bad album. I haven't watched Hamilton, and I only know of like My Shot is like the only real song that I've listened to from that album.
I gotta say,
but
My Shot is a well-crafted song.
Yeah.
But in my personal opinion, it is not the strongest one on that album. There are so many better ones. The most
popular song from a musical usually isn't the strongest song.
No.
I've realized.
Like, my favorite on that album is probably Wait For It, sung by Leslie Odom Jr., who plays Aaron Burr.
Yeah.
Odom Jr. is such a good vocalist. Like, he runs like, Manuel Miranda is a great musical artist.
It's almost like he's made it to Broadway or something.
I know. Like, Manuel Miranda is a great vocalist, but he's very much like a rap and hip-hop artist first.
Yeah.
And Odom Jr. as like a raw vocalist just like runs laps around him, in my opinion. And like Wait For It.
Well, my understanding of it was Manuel Miranda got inspired to write Hamilton because he saw a lot of similarities between Alexander Hamilton's like progress through his like career and a lot of like the hip hop life.
For sure, because like both of them are like, we started from like low means, like disadvantaged. We
started from the bottom.
Yeah, you start from the bottom and you rise up through the ranks, which is like such a,
which is like when hip hop first started, and it's kind of coming back with like this advent of like SoundCloud rappers.
Yeah.
But like when rap first started, it was like, oh, you just rap on like street corners, and then someone hears you, you start doing rap battles. Someone hears you, they give you a record something for them, and then
it's like a trope of rap.
Yeah.
That you start from the streets of like Detroit or some big city, and then you make it to like a big record deal kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which is essentially what Manuel Miranda, like, I think he read the biography of Hamilton, and he's like, holy crap. And then he like went and Googled and tried to like find if someone had done this before, of like Hamilton as like a hip hop story. And he's like, no one's done this. This is crazy.
Weird how no one before that made the connection of this founding father is kind of gangsta.
Yeah. He founded the Treasury. How more gangster can you get?
I mean, you could be like Ice Cube or
LL Cool J,
Easy-E, or like really anyone from NWA. You could get you could be Tupac. You could be Biggie.
That is true.
You could Eminem's pretty G.
Yeah. But they'd be hard pressed to get into like a federal government level, I feel. In today's PC culture.
Yeah, it's pretty gangsta that he founded the Treasury.
No, but
like some that sounds like something Norm from Phineas and Ferb would say. The robot.
Oh my god, speaking of Phineas and Ferb, there is a new, I think it's movie coming to Disney Plus.
I've heard of this.
I think it is either coming out very, very soon or is already out on Disney Plus. I haven't watched it yet.
They're not making me pay $30 for it, are they?
No. This isn't a Mulan situation. Oh, and also, Greatest Showman should be on Disney Plus.
On Disney Plus, yeah.
Which is another great musical.
It is great. That's another one of those where like the person who wrote it about the like it's about P.T. Barnum, and it was Hugh Jackman's like passion project.
Yeah, you can definitely tell that it was a passion project, much in the way that Hamilton for Manuel was a passion project. I mean, in fairness, Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote all the music, lyrics, and basically that entire show.
That's what I wanted to say before. I haven't heard Hamilton. I haven't watched Hamilton, even though it is on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Hashtag not a shill.
It's like a 3-hour musical, though.
But I will say I do love Moana.
Yeah.
Where he also wrote all the music for it.
Which he wrote prior to Hamilton, so he sold out before Hamilton.
But no, I like Moana's been like the only like Disney princess movie I've truly really enjoyed, other than Frozen 2.
Frozen 2 was really good.
I love the 70s power ballad, Lost in the Woods. I also love that like musical idea that
do you want to know what that's based on?
The Dies Irae?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
But there's something about it just like being in that high pitch like whistle note register.
And for those of you who are not aware of what we mean by the Dies Irae, it is the old timey musical note pattern that like represents death that was used by
it was in the church in like hymnal chants. It was like Dies Irae,
and what really popularized that beyond like church and hymnal was how one great YouTuber, I think, who goes by the name of Sideways, he put it, Alpha Stoner Hector Berlioz, he used it in, I think, Movement 5 of his Symphonie Fantastique, which, if you're into classical music, worth a listen. I mean, one of the songs is called March to the Scaffold, which ends with the protagonist or the main like viewpoint character of the song. It ends with him getting his head lopped off, and the last 3 or 4 notes are representative of the head falling down the stairs of the like guillotine gallows thing.
I love March to the Scaffold. That's probably one of the only like classical songs I still enjoy listening to, and it comes up on the Radio Wasteland Spotify playlist.
Oh, I forgot that was on there. Yeah.
That one, the March Slave or March Slav,
the Slavic March.
No, it's like I know
which one you're talking about.
Yeah, I can't think of like what the actual name of it is, but yeah, that and the Symphony of the Zoo or Animal, Carnival of the Animals, by Camille Saint-Saëns.
Berlioz was such an interesting guy because, like, if I remember correctly, my musical history is doing me justice. He conceptualized his Symphonie Fantastique during, like, an opium-fueled nightmare. Hence, Alpha Stoner.
That sounds like some Salvador Dali shit right there.
Pretty much.
There's a painting by Dali that it's a painting that Dali did, and it was never released until after his death, because after he died, his family went into his house and they found this painting.
Yeah.
That he had painted, and it's I forget what the name of the painting is. It's but it's essentially the painting is because Dali was schizophrenic.
Right.
And the painting was like a schizophrenic vision or hallucination that he had.
Okay.
And he didn't want to release it because he's like, this is too
much.
But then his family after his death was like, oh, this must have been a painting he was working on and was looking at like releasing soon, so they released it.
Oh. Interesting.
And it's really weird. It's like a man eating a man. Kind of, it's weird. It's Dali, so you know it's weird.
Yeah, that's pretty fair to say. I guess another thing that I've been thinking about lately, and I don't know why it came to mind. Maybe it was because I know they just recently announced the new Suicide Squad game by Rocksteady. And
yeah.
they're also teasing and set to announce more details for the next Batman Arkham game from WB Studios. I was thinking about game demos. Because I remember playing the ever-loving crap out of the Batman Arkham Asylum demo.
Dude, I remember in middle school, because that game came out, 2008?
Yes, 08, 09, somewhere in there.
I remember the first time I saw that demo, I was at a friend's house.
Yeah.
And, their older brother, I think, was playing, Infamous.
Okay.
I think. Or Prototype.
Oh my, yeah, that's a throwback.
Yeah, they're playing Prototype, and all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, hey, you want to see something cool?" I was like, "Oh, yeah, sure. Check this out." And he went and he started playing the Batman Arkham demo. And as soon as he started booting it up, I was like, "That's cool, a Batman game."
Yeah.
But my brain only remembered, because the only real superhero game that I had played prior was Superman 64.
I remember we had Superman 64, which that game, terrible. And then there was, remember the Batman Dark Tomorrow game?
Oh,
where you're running around
on
the
Xbox.
rooftop.
Yeah. I remember that.
That was also terrible.
Do you remember the RoboCop game too?
Also terrible.
That's kind of like a superhero game, I guess. RoboCop's a superhero.
It was also pretty terrible.
RoboCop is basically Captain Detroit.
Yeah.
RoboCop was Detroit Become Human before Detroit Become Human.
Existed.
And also much more interesting, in my opinion.
Yes.
Because I would rather see a cyborg run around shooting people and blowing shit up and reading a man his rights while throwing him through panes of glass.
You have the right to remain silent. Yes, that is...
What is this shit?
That is some pinnacle 80s right there.
Gotta love Kurtwood Smith.
Classic. But yeah, on the demo front, I remember playing the Asylum demo, and that is such a perfect distillation of what that game is.
Yep. You have the beginning of the brawl with the inmates
in this holding cells. Yep.
And I gotta say, the transition to the first Predator,
after you take down Victor Zsasz and you go through that the vent.
You go through the vent, and all of a sudden it's the cops getting shot with the shotgun because they got guns now. That transition was seamless.
I know.
And I mean, it's not hard to do when you're going through a fucking air vent.
Yes.
Excuse me. But then I remember playing the actual full release game, and I was like, "What the fuck?" Because it's all jumbled around. Because then you go through from the Predator thing to because
they cut out a big chunk between when you take down Victor Zsasz, enter that air vent, and then the next part. And when I think I know where you're going with this. When I first played the full release retail game of it when we got it for Christmas.
Yeah.
And then I proceeded to play and beat it in a day. I'm like, wait, this isn't how it's supposed to go. They're supposed to go to these guys shooting down a guard and with guns and
And I'm pretty sure you encounter the first Titan inmate before that Predator mission thing. If I remember correctly.
I believe so.
My memory might not be serving me correctly, but I did just recently start replaying it. So if you argue me, you are wrong.
I believe you're correct because I think the demo ends with that cutscene where he throws the
end of which is a really perfect ending for that demo, by the way, because it's oh, now Joker did something,
right. And then I remember the other big demo that I would always play was BioShock 1.
Yeah.
That was also another perfect distillation of everything about BioShock. Because you start, pretty sure that one started on the plane. You basically run through the first little bit of tutorial area, and then you meet the Big Daddy and stuff.
Yeah.
And then you end, I think, in Medical Pavilion.
Possibly. Dude, the beginning of BioShock 1 was BioShock 1 was great. BioShock 2 was meh. BioShock Infinite was a return to awesome.
Yes.
It was pretty flawed, yes, but BioShock Infinite had some interesting
concepts.
It had more interesting concepts to me than BioShock 2, because BioShock 2, the only real concept was, oh, you're a big daddy.
Yeah.
The big evil guys you're now one of
Mhm.
them. But now that you are the big boss, we have to make a new thing. So now it's Big Sisters.
Part of the problem, though, with that one is that I think it was 2K was the publisher at that time.
Yeah.
They were like, Bioshock 1 did super well, and they were pushing for a sequel. So
Yeah.
Bioshock 2 wasn't developed by Ken Levine and like his team. It was like a secondary team that made it. So they were like, we need a sequel. So
Yeah.
let's do a sequel. I will say
Bioshock 1 had great like horror elements on top of the shooter elements weren't great, but
yeah,
it helped to make the horror more horrifying.
Yeah, I remember that demo, like the dread of exiting the bathysphere, and like there's like very tangible like horror elements, and they do a very good job of it for not being like a quote unquote horror game.
Yeah.
And like Bioshock 2, I played through it once. I don't really remember too much about it.
All I remember is that you are a big daddy and you had a rivet gun.
Yes.
And that's it.
I remember they had multiplayer, which
I do remember that. It was pretty fun.
Wasn't that bad.
It was enjoyable.
I had fun with it. Like, sure. I think that was also in around the time of Arkham Origins, where it's like, these sequels are just getting tacked on multiplayer games.
Yeah.
Arkham Origins, I will argue, multiplayer wasn't that great, and it was kind of tacked on. Like, I played it a few times. It was fun, but I don't think it was comparable and equal level to Bioshock 2's. That was much better.
Multiplayer game, like a multiplayer that I kind of enjoyed, was Assassin's Creed Brotherhood.
With that hide and seek stuff?
Yeah.
That was fun.
I really enjoyed that. It was actually really fun. I didn't think Assassin's Creed game had any business like being online, so when I first heard it, I was like, I don't know about that. But then when I actually started playing, I was like, this is actually really fun. Everything I said.
That was super well done and super fun. And then they just kind of like improved it throughout the other games. It's like taking what had been across all these game franchises was, and for the most part still is, a very single player, story oriented, like action adventure game with some RP elements, and trying to add in a multiplayer functionality can be very tacked on and just like really poorly done, kind of like with Arkham Origins. But I don't think it was as bad as it could have been. Because like, for having a different developer pushing out a sequel because like WB wanted one, I think Origins is a very good and competent game. Sure, there are issues with it. It's kind of very samey looking and very boring at times. And they also have to, because it comes after Arkham City, and you have this precedent set of like your ice grenade and all these other gadgets, they had to find a ways to shoehorn in those kinds of or similar gadgets that make you have the same functionality. So it's not like I guess a backtrack. Yeah. So you have like those little like contrivances, like, oh, it's a glue grenade now, but it's the same animation and essentially the same idea, just like a bumpy texture to it.
Prequels are hard because prequel games are hard because you have all of these like things that you have from the previous game, but you're now you're that character or a different character interacting with that character from the first game. Now, in an earlier time period, so you don't have the same experiences and maybe you don't necessarily have the same skills that you did in the first game. So it can feel like, well, you're losing out on features in a prequel game.
And then when you look back at it in like full contextual space of like Arkham Origins is like, oh yeah, we have all these like, I guess from an Origins to Asylum perspective, it's like you only had the Batmobile and like the limited supplies he had on the island because he wasn't expecting for a full breakout and riot on an island necessarily.
It was also 2008, so you couldn't do too much with an open world.
Well, I'm saying
Fallout 3 was like and Oblivion was like, holy
the
shit.
pinnacle.
Yeah.
Well, I'm saying more from like the story perspective, like why doesn't Batman have his glue grenades or all of like these other items? Well, it's because he wasn't expecting for a full blown island breakout.
Contingent.
Yeah.
Batcave.
He had like the bare minimum.
Yeah.
And he had to hobble together what he did have on that island. Whereas like City.
Speaking real quick about Arkham.
Yeah.
Arkham Asylum. That ending, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
With Joker becoming the big Titan guy and Batman defeating him by spraying his explosive gel all over his hand and then punching him in the face.
Oh yeah, that's the only way you beat people. That's the only way you can win is you just like beat them harder. My normal punches don't work. Try explosive gel punch.
I enjoyed that.
And somehow didn't like, shatter his hand.
Yeah, it's Batman.
They definitely leveled up throughout the games boss fight wise. Like, because that one was like the same thing.
Arkham Asylum, every boss fight was the same fucking thing.
Evade, jump,
same thing.
battering. Yeah. Evade, jump, battering. Maybe some. No, you didn't really have to use cape stunts because that was only for like knife wielders.
That was, yeah.
And then City came in.
Then you had like the bosses that you had to cape stun, and then you do like the little beatdown animation
Lose
thing.
that, but like your major bosses were barring freeze, all revolving around a certain gadget.
Yeah, like
they
had a
certain was the REC stun gun. Yeah. Freeze is the pinnacle. Like you set the bar so high with the freeze boss battle, it's hard to achieve that again. I feel without being reductive or like, oh, we're just Mr. Freeze, but we're reskinning it.
Yeah.
So to my mind, it's going to be hard to kind of like top that one. Because like you get to like Arkham Knight and there's flaws with that game. Like some people feel like they relied too much on the Batmobile. Like you fight Deathstroke for like your hand-to-hand combat boss. Perfect, because he counters you and you have to read his counters and movements, but like then they just reduce him to like, here's a tank battle, which is I enjoyed the game. I didn't think the Batmobile detracted anything of it, but I'm also not like super critical necessarily. I'm like, did I have fun? Yeah, there's my metric. Did I get my $60 worth? Yeah,
that's my whole thing with games is a video game is there to entertain me and like give me a fun experience.
Yes.
Did I enjoy the game? Yes. Did it give me the experience that I was expecting? Maybe not, but I still enjoyed it.
Did it give me $60 worth of entertainment at minimum? Yeah. Yeah. If it did, sweet. If it didn't, we're going to have some issues.
Okay. The only game that I've played recently that I've had a little bit of an issue with the $60 price tag was Star Wars the Jedi
Fallen Order.
Jedi Fallen Order.
I still haven't completed that game.
That game is really fun. Amazingly fun. Like on like even beating out some games as my top 10s, like even beating nostalgic games to me. However, the reason I have a little bit of a problem with it being a full $60 release, which I think it's only $60 because EA wanted it to be priced that way, is because the game is so short. Don't get me wrong, quality over quantity any day. I'd rather have a really, really, really good, tight 10-hour experience than 40 hours of unsettlement needs your help.
Kind of like Outer Worlds versus Fallout 4. Like, Fallout 4, I enjoy that game. There's a lot that I do like about it.
Outer Worlds was another one that was kind of short.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, Outer Worlds is like a... Part of it was the budget that they were on. Is like, we're going to distill everything and make it as like a kind of a streamlined thing as possible. Yeah. Like, I haven't completed that one, but from what I played, I really enjoy it. I haven't
completed it either. I still have a save that is sitting right before going to the final like mission.
Yeah.
I still haven't done it because I don't know.
You don't want to commit to the finish.
Yeah, like completing the Fallen Order game. Like I was enthralled with that game because I remember I had set it because I remember I had found it on Steam.
Yeah.
Like way before it was coming out.
Oh, and then you set it as like a remind me when it comes out thing.
And a couple days before it came out, Steam was like, "Hey, here you go." And I was like, I completely forgot about this game. And I bought it.
Take my money.
I bought it immediately, installed it. This was around Thanksgiving time because I remember
right.
I was playing the shit out of that game during Thanksgiving. I got it on, had to been Thursday, Thanksgiving. Had to downloaded it, installed it on Thursday, started playing it Friday. By that Sunday, I was done with the game.
Damn.
Because of how short the game is.
Right. Because there's only, like 4 or 5 worlds, maybe?
Yeah, there's Bogano,
there's
Kashyyyk, the Dathomir.
Yeah. There's like 1 or 2 others. Like I haven't.
Yeah.
I think
I can't remember the names of the other ones, but the game is pretty short.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed some of the puzzle aspects of the game, especially in like the Jedi,
like the puzzles in like the dungeon, like the wind, wind temple type of thing.
Yeah. I remember. I don't remember you remember this, but I remember calling you into my room because I was having such a problem with one of the puzzles.
I remember that.
And I remember I could not for the life of me figure out what this puzzle wanted me to do. Like, I had an idea of what it wanted me to do.
Yeah.
And later I found out I just wasn't executing it enough or executing it right.
Oh, right. Like you weren't jumping at the right moment
or no, like I wasn't quite lining up my force push.
Oh, that's right.
Because there's like that chandelier thing, that force push. I wasn't quite getting the force push right. And I remember calling you into my room and being like, how the fuck do I do this? And I was like going through what I think I'm supposed to do is I'm supposed to go over here and I'm supposed to like force push. And then I like went to force push just to show you what I was doing.
And then it worked.
And then it just happened to work. And I was like, this is awkward. Okay, well, yes. I figured it out.
I remember that. Like, I like that game. I think what detracted a little bit from me was that I had just got done basically getting platinum on Sekiro. And the combat between the two, like, it's similar, but Sekiro's combat is so much more responsive to me.
Yeah.
That, like, going over to
Sekiro's
Fallen
combat.
Order.
Yeah, Sekiro's combat is much more of like a challenge.
Yes.
Whereas the combat, for the most part, except for the boss fights in Fallen Order, is meant to make you feel like a powerful Jedi.
Like, part of it for me is that I was used to in Sekiro doing like my my block spamming.
Yeah.
And then I would like I would go into my Sekiro mindset with Fallen Order, try to block spam, and I couldn't. So I'm like, for me having to relearn the combat style was just like, I didn't want to necessarily put the effort in, so I just like lowered the difficulty to like easier story mode or something like that, and then just went about my day. And I really like it, but what I run into is that the backtracking was such a slog for me, especially on some of like those, I think maybe on Kashyyyk, where it's like all the subterranean tunnels that are like a lot of times one-way directions, so you have to go this way in order to get over here, and then you have to... It was just a lot of backtracking that I didn't want to have to deal with.
I don't mind backtracking because I remember going through the caves in Oblivion before they put in Skyrim, where every cave has...
God. Yes.
It was even worse in Oblivion because all of the textures were the same.
And playing on the old CRT TV, the brightness was absolute garbage, so you couldn't really necessarily see that well. I remember, I think it was the cave in which you fight the Mythic Dawn and get the Mysterium Xarxes to take to Martin at Skyrim.
Yeah.
I remember one of my first playthroughs for that. I get through, beat the Mythic Dawn, get the book and everything like that. and
And
could
trying
not
to get out.
find my way out.
Yep.
I'm like, I've walked through the same like T junction. Who knows how many
80,000 times.
Where the hell is the exit?
Yeah. That's when you have to like get out a pencil and paper and start like mapping out the fucking dungeon yourself.
Become a cartographer. Time to roleplay a cartographer, boys. I am no longer a barbarian.
I am no longer a sneaky assassin, man. I am now a cartographer, cartographing this cave.
This one cave. Suddenly, my low intelligence barbarian has become a super intelligent cartographer.
And as soon as you find your way around and get out of there, you are immediately dumb again.
He dumps his intelligence stat back into strength.
Yeah. I remember it wasn't my first playthrough in Oblivion. It was definitely my main playthrough in Oblivion.
Yeah.
Because I remember I would keep the Oblivion disc in the Xbox 360 for months on end. And never took it out because I just played it so much. I remember getting to level like 35, which in Oblivion...
That's a lot of time.
Yeah.
Because it isn't what I would consider quick to level you up.
No. Unless you do like your main skills as like acrobatics and athletics.
Yeah. Or just by the very nature of running through the world levels you up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember like getting to like level 35, going through and doing all of the guilds and everything. And the biggest problem that I had with backtracking wasn't like a main like cave anywhere. It wasn't even like a necessarily complex cave system.
Okay.
It was just like I was saying before, like all of the textures for all of like everything
were just the same.
So everything looked exactly the same to me. And it was a cave during like the Fighters Guild. Like you had to go in, you had to kill like bears or trolls or something.
Is it like the first one where you like go in with a group of 4 other guys and you're like killing off the bears or the rats or whatever?
No, it wasn't that one. It was a little later
okay.
on. I think it was after you get the helm of the Orion like bear helmet thing.
Okay. Yeah,
I think it was after that. I think it was getting I think it was rescuing Velena Danton's son.
Okay.
I think it was that cave.
I only ever went through the Fighters Guild once.
Same.
And part of that was I went to that first initial dungeon where you like go in with the 5 other guys and you're like killing rats or whatever. And in that playthrough, I was doing more magic usage. So I was using like the little fireball. Yeah. And
flare.
Yeah, flare. So I shoot out my little fireball at a rat.
Oh, you killed one of the
idiots that I was there with. Ran into the path of the fireball and died, prompting me to get kicked out of the guild, and then I had to hunt down like 10 or 20 bear pelts, which that ain't no easy feat to do.
It's much easier than the time I accidentally stole some scales from one of the mages' shops.
Oh no.
Got kicked out of the mages guild. And I had to go get like 20 dragon's tongue and like 20 something else.
All these super ultra rare alchemy ingredients.
I just ended up going around, fast traveling around to all of the alchemy shops, buying what they had, and then just waiting till they restocked. Going around buying it, waiting till they restocked, and going around and buying it until I finally got enough. But it still is not as bad as the time I was playing through Morrowind. I only ever tried playing through Morrowind once. And I had to keep like a pen and paper journal about what was going on because I had to like copy down directions that were given to me.
Oh my.
Okay. Accuse me of enjoying the hand-holdy point here and go kind of player.
Right.
But I enjoy playing through Skyrim with no fast travel. I enjoy playing it through with no HUD.
Yeah.
I am a proponent of having quest markers so that I know where I have to go.
Yeah.
But then finding my way there.
Definitely.
Like, give me a map that shows me some roads so I know how to get there.
I know where I am on this map. I know where the end point where I need to end up is. However I get there is my journey and story.
What I don't want is go east until you hit some rocks, turn north until you hit like a river, cross the river, and then follow the river east.
Right.
Don't give me that shit. I don't have
The time and patience for that.
It's not even like the time and patience for it. I just don't like.
It takes the fun out of it.
Because what I find myself doing in that situation is like, are these the rocks that the guy's talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Is this the right river that they're talking about? Is this where I'm supposed to be turning?
Right.
And then if it's not the right place that I'm supposed to have turned, and I turned there anyway because it looked like it was the right spot, all of a sudden now I'm like 4 hours of walking because you couldn't run because it would deplete your stamina.
Oh, that's right.
So you had to walk everywhere.
Well, and Skyrim still kept a little bit of that in with those treasure maps. But those were like, here's this picture of a log with like a familiar landmark. So you go to that landmark, find a hollowed out log, and you find a little bit of treasure.
Yeah,
but it's
that was
not
fun.
It's not crucial to like a quest. It's purely like, if you want to do this, here's a thing you can do.
People say Morrowind was the best game. I would say Skyrim was the best game. If I was letting nostalgia talk, I would say Oblivion was the best game, because Oblivion had the best blend between story and open world aspects.
Yeah.
I enjoyed Skyrim more because of the ability to kind of tell more stories that you created.
Right.
It was more open-ended that way.
Definitely.
But Morrowind was definitely not the best game.
It was good for its time.
And that's about all we can say about that. Right.
Kind of circling back on demos, like thinking about them. I don't see them super prevalent anymore. Like
demos,
like it's more like, here's a tech demo or a gameplay demo for our gaming conference, E3, Xbox, whatever. And then they show it to you that way, but it's not like you.
There's not like, oh my god, have you played this demo?
Right.
Kind of shit.
Yeah. I think the last demo that I played for a game was The Long Dark.
Mine was probably Arkham Asylum. Was the last demo I remember like playing.
But I think The Long Dark is like a survival type of game, and it's like you survive over a couple of days, and then I think there's like a time limit to it as well. Yeah. And I might be misremembering this, but I seem to remember that like once you completed it once, you couldn't go through it again, which is kind of bizarre.
That's kind of weird.
Again, I might be misremembering that entirely.
Seems kind of weird for a demo. It feels like a demo you'd want them playing through it as much as possible.
Exactly. But I think the reason...
I remember like playing through the Arkham Asylum demo so much was what made us want the game.
Yeah. Because like I would spend...
Like, this is a little taste of something that is really awesome.
Like I would spend like 15 minutes just like in that Predator section, like messing around with the goons, like throwing batarangs at stuff and like freaking them out.
Experimenting and seeing what you could do. Yeah. And then I remember when I first realized you could string them up and then cut them down.
That was awesome. And of course, in the main game, there was an achievement for that, because why not?
Yeah. Rope-a-dope-a-dope.
But yeah, I think the reason, or a large reason, why demos maybe aren't as prevalent or popular is, well, a couple of things. It's like, you have a lot of indie developers, and in that case, a lot of their games like enter in early access. So you get like a discounted rate as they're like producing it and everything like that.
Right.
But I think that a lot of it is the shift in what used to be more of a closed world, or more of like a linear kind of a progression. And you could have this very like clear cut, here's a little demo area.
A tailored experience.
Yeah. Whereas everything has progressively
gearing
moved
towards more like open world games, where it's kind of harder to tailor an experience in.
Right, because like I remember the Minecraft demo on the 360.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, here's like a few different, here's a pre-built overworld to like showcase certain things, but you also have like a time limit.
Yeah.
So it's not like you can put 8 hours into the demo.
I hated demos like that. I remember playing the Skate 2 demo.
Oh yeah, and it'll give you like 15 minutes or whatever.
Yeah, and I was like, I want to play more. I don't want to restart every 20 minutes.
Right, which makes you want to go buy the game, but it's also like, I can see why they do it, because otherwise, like, if there was a demo for Skyrim, how would they do it?
How
where
would you do that?
Would you do just... Well, you wouldn't want to do like the Helgen sequence, and as soon as you exit Helgen and head off towards Riverwood, it ends, because that's the entire opening sequence of the game.
Yeah.
Like with Arkham City, like, yeah, you play through like a decent amount of the opening sequence, but between entering that vent and coming out at the other end where those guys are gunning down the guard, there's a lot of stuff that happens.
Yeah.
Of running around the Welcome Center.
Yeah.
It's like they did a very seamless job. So I think the move towards more open world games would necessitate time limits, which people don't like.
Yeah.
And the move towards more indie developers and less AAA titles out there.
Yeah.
And even some AAA games like entering into like an alpha, early access, and betas. I think alphas and betas have begun to replace like,
the demo.
But then the problem you run into with those is like a lot of times, like I think Modern Warfare was an exception of more modern games because there was a free beta section.
Yeah.
But a lot of betas necessitated you pre-ordering the game. So it's like you pre-order, they get like your money, and then it's like, here's our beta test, and it's a very limited beta test, so it's usually multiplayer, which is in most games the most like resource and technically difficult,
intensive.
So that makes sense. And in addition to that, this console generation especially, you haven't seen a whole lot of like new IPs and new games. It's been a lot of remasters and remakes. So with that, it doesn't...
because I think it's because you saw and are still seeing that kind of stuff in cinema too.
Yeah.
It's because we reached a point where we have a new technology to be able to remake old like sci-fi movies or something, old effects movies, and remake them to make them look better and cooler.
Right.
And so you want to like capture something that was really cool and really good in the past, but you want to bring it back and
update.
You want to make it look nice with new equipment and kind of bring back like a nostalgia, but with a new twist.
Yeah. So I think that's a large reason why, like,
and that's why I enjoyed the Ratchet and Clank. It wasn't like a remaster,
it was
more like a soft reboot to it, because it followed the same like basic general story that you did in the original Ratchet and Clank game, but it
updated it and made changes.
Updated it graphically, and it also like added a ton of story to it.
Right. It wasn't like
it wasn't like a cash grab kind of reboot. Kind of like I don't know. It was a lot of fun.
It wasn't basically taking the old game,
putting new graphics,
remastering the audio, like Modern Warfare Remaster.
Looking at you, Special Edition Skyrim.
And that. But
although I really liked you, Special Edition Skyrim. The Special Edition Skyrim was I remember I remember getting Skyrim. I fucking pre-ordered the shit out of that game.
Oldrim?
When it first came out back in 2011.
Version,
yeah. For the Xbox 360. I remember pre-ordering the shit out of that game, getting all the DLCs the instant they came out, because I loved that game so much. And the level of giddiness I got the first time booting up Skyrim was like, it's indescribable how excited I was to be playing this game that I had been looking at screenshots of. It was like the last time I got like obsessive about a title before it came out.
Right.
And once I purchased Special Edition on Steam.
Yeah.
Actually, I think I got Special Edition free on Steam. I had the Legendary Edition.
If you had Legendary, they gave it to you
I got it for free. But I had never installed it because I already have Legendary Edition. Why would I install this new thing? But then once I installed it, and it's just better. It's just technically more stable, better frame rates and everything. But when I for the first time booted up Skyrim Special Edition on my computer, I had that same feeling. It like brought me back to 2011.
Yeah.
Being a little kid booting up the game for the first time that he'd been obsessed about for
months.
And I don't know. I like hearing the sound of like the horse hooves in the carriage. I don't know.
Finally awake. Yeah. Skyrim, I think, from a remaster or remake perspective, I feel is a little bit different because like they did that all internally to test the engine for Fallout 4.
Yeah.
And then like it got out, and then people were
hey.
like, why didn't you just release this as a game?
Yeah.
And it made a more stable Skyrim experience with
updated graphics.
And extra features that were being featured in Fallout 4. So it makes sense.
And features that were being not only featured in Fallout 4, but also features that people had been modding into Oldhim in the first place, which required less mods in your load order. But speaking of modding Skyrim, I just wanted to say I really enjoy the... I've been looking at the Skyrim Nexus for Special Edition, and there's so many mods out there for the Civil War quest line.
Oh, yeah.
That add, like, big battles, and they add, like...
they expand on it.
Yeah, they add almost, like, tower defense, kind of... And like they also have like battle maps almost, so it almost makes it kind of like a Civ experience. But I really enjoy modding the game so much to the point that it basically removes the entire dragon storyline and makes the Civil War the focal point of the game. Because I feel like from day one that should have been the actual main storyline was the Civil War quest line.
Yeah,
I think it would have. I personally think that would have been better.
Short of a giant dragon interrupting your beheading right off the bat, they throw the Civil War quest line in your face a lot more than the dragons aspect. Because, like, in theory, with Skyrim, unmodded vanilla state, the dragon interrupts your execution. And from that point on, you could feasibly never hear of or see dragons again. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember
you have to elect into that, whereas like just by the very nature of running around through Skyrim's overworld, you will hear and see constant references to the Civil War. Yeah,
you'll encounter Thalmor Justiciars, you'll encounter patrols of each side. My personal favorite is when you come across a band of bandits that have killed and taken the armor of Imperials or Stormcloaks, depending on the random event. Yeah. And they'll be like, pay up. This for the Imperial tax.
Right. They do a very poor job of rolling deception.
And then you look over like, there's just some Imperial corpses over there. I don't think you're part of the Imperial army.
Right. So yeah, I think they did a really good job with that, and making it different enough to warrant purchasing, and especially because if you had Legendary Edition on Steam, they just gave it to you. So it's like, okay, now I have 2 copies and one is more stable and better. Whereas like you run into other games from that similar era or later in the generational cycle of like the 360 and PlayStation 3, and it gets re-released and remastered on the 4 and the Xbox
next
One.
generation.
Dishonored, for instance. It's just like, here's some better graphics and all of the DLC bundled together. Yeah. Which is like cool, but could have also just made it backwards compatible with the old one. Maybe thrown out, like, because you can throw out a patch for better textures. For it, and maybe focused on another cool IP. Yeah. Like, this generation seems to have stagnated a lot.
Yeah,
barring a few like huge milestones like Witcher 3
or Breath of the Wild.
Like, don't get me wrong, there are some developers out there
Red Dead Redemption
still
2.
pushing it. Yeah,
can't talk about groundbreaking games and not bring up Red Dead Redemption.
True. But yeah, it's like a lot of remasters and remakes have stunted, I think, in addition to those other things that like the demo market. Yeah, it's like I remember you'd get like like Hulk or like the 2004 special edition Star Wars OT. Yeah, where it's like, here's a short little demo.
Here's a little here. Play Battlefront on Endor. Yeah, you just watch the Endor sequence in Return of the Jedi. Here, play Battlefront Endor edition.
Wasn't there also Hoth on that one or no?
I don't think.
I think it was just Endor.
I thought it was just Endor.
And then you could either play as Imperial or Rebels.
And
then
get the command points, you get speeder bikes and all.
And then O3's Hulk, directed by Ang Lee, had the demo on it.
Oh,
which we liked enough to go and buy the actual game.
The game itself wasn't awful. It wasn't too bad.
It was a pretty fun, because like the first level's like the demo from the bonus features of the game or movie. And then the
On
second
the-
one is like a stealth mission that he plays Bruce.
Yeah.
So it's like a fair amount of diversity.
I remember watching you play through that second mission as Bruce.
Mhm.
So frustrating.
I remember there was a hacking sequence.
And the hacking wasn't all that intuitive and just was kind of,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like, it wasn't a perfect game, but it was fun. I don't think I ever, like, went through and fully beat it properly. Like, I entered cheat codes to get to the last level and all that. I
Yeah.
had fun with it. That's all I can say. It wasn't, like, some, like, foundational masterpiece that, like, changed the course of my gaming career.
No, actually, Hulk has been the most influential video game ever released. It is basically the Citizen Kane of video games.
Should have known. But I also remember, like, Doom 3 demo on the Doom bonus features.
Ooh, yeah, I remember that.
That one was never really big into Doom. Like, we played Final Doom here and there on, like, the
Yeah.
PlayStation 1, but, like, Doom 3 had distinct horror elements. So I remember, like, the apprehension of, like, going through the dark, decrepit tunnels of the facility. And then
It was definitely not, because I got the 2016 Doom, and holy shit.
very
like,
different.
I never really played Doom. I remember playing Duke Nukem a lot,
Yes.
but I never really played Doom. So when I started playing, like, the Doom 3
Demo.
demo, I only ever heard people talk about Doom, and that's all. That's what I thought Doom was.
Yeah.
Was like a horror shooter game,
Right.
like the vein of like Resident Evil. That's all I thought it was.
Makes sense.
But then I played Doom 2016. Holy shit, that game was fucking awesome. I almost got Doom Eternal when it was just on sale, but I forgot about it until the sale ended.
Oops.
So, but it's cool. I got the Medieval remaster
I remember you saying that, yeah.
with Sir Daniel Fortescue.
That is a throwback. From
Yeah.
the old school demo days.
That's a demo we got in a fucking Pizza Hut box.
Back when you'd get demo discs from Pizza Hut.
Yeah.
And it's like, here's like 5 or 6 games. Some of them are good. Some of them are iffy.
Some of them are good. The rest of them are utter trash.
Well, they had
to fill the
they
disc.
had a Crash Bandicoot demo on there. They also had like OG Metal Gear Solid demo on there. They had Medieval.
I remember Medieval and Crash.
And I think
don't remember
there
the
was
Metal
a
Gear.
racing game that we never really played because we weren't really...
PlayStation era racing games were
Not great.
Pretty bad. Oh,
We never really played a whole lot of racing games though.
Speaking of car driving games, do you remember the Dukes of Hazzard games?
Yeah, because there was 2 of them, right?
Yeah, there was the first one where you could only drive around. It was like only single player, and you drove around in the generally. I remember the second one added a multiplayer feature that you could drive around in like a demo derby.
Oh my, yeah.
I also remember playing Twisted Metal. That was fun.
Where you'd be in like the desert and you'd be able to teleport up to the moon
Yeah.
and all that other nonsense.
The name of the game might not have been Twisted Metal. I don't actually remember the name of the game, but it was in the vein of Twisted Metal,
Yeah.
of like vehicle shooters.
So from here on out, we shall refer to it as Twisted Metal
Twisted Metal.
until proven otherwise.
Yeah.
And it, it's a lot of effort to go walk over to our PS1 game catalog and try to find it.
It actually is because
It's buried.
there's a pile of shit because we're in the basement right now.
And basements are notorious for becoming
Dumping ground.
glorified storage lockers.
Because right now we could look around this basement and we could find toys and things from our childhood. We are now in our 20s.
Yes.
And
That's how basements generally work, though.
I remember like those drawers over there have all our Hot Wheel cars and our monster trucks and shit in them.
Yep.
If you go over into that other corner back there, you'll find all our Star Wars stuff, which I spent an entire night going through all like that Star Wars stuff to find really cool figures and really weird like niche figures.
I did that too.
And I was just sending Snapchats to a couple of my friends who were really into Star Wars.
Classic.
I was taking pictures like, here I have Obi-Wan's Jedi Speeder. Here I have Anakin's. Here I have Anakin's Pod Racer. Here I have Sebulba's Pod Racer. Here I have a Cloud City Bespin Police Cruiser.
And here I have the Desert Skiff from Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. Here I have a Rancor. Here I have a little like Ewok Village playset.
That thing was
here,
dope.
Here I have a fucking Droidica.
That's right.
Here I have a really weird like Obi-Wan with a magnet in his hand to
The Force action.
The Force,
Yeah.
yeah. I remember we also have that
The
Anakin,
Anakin
Force,
with the lightsaber
Force
blade
action
in his
one.
arm.
Yep. Wearing the I get really in depth, being like, here's an Anakin action figure I have where he's wearing the outfit that you only see him in a few scenes in Attack of the Clones,
I was like
where he's
peasant
being
garb.
Padme bodyguard.
Yep.
Um,
And like looking over my right shoulder here, I can see my old Halo 3 Special Edition Xbox
Oh my
360
God.
controller.
I saw that the other day when I walked down here to I think I was lifting some weights over there, and then as I was walking back upstairs, I caught a glimpse of that, and I was like, "Holy shit!"
That thing is
I remember
pristine.
getting Halo 3 before we got the X360.
Oh, yeah.
I also
we were that cool.
yeah, we were that dedicated to
In
Halo.
addition to my awesome Halo controller, I can see the OG Xbox
Yep.
and, if my eyes don't deceive me, an N64 with the epitome of multiplayer shooter games,
Hell yeah.
GoldenEye.
Just recently, I was hanging out with a few of my buddies. We were hanging out in one of my friends' driveways
Yeah.
because we weren't allowed to go inside the home because
Because COVID.
yeah. So we set up a projector because they have a real nice white garage door. And we set up a projector with a Nintendo 64, and I had Excitebike 64.
Oh,
I had that
my.
Beatles racing game.
Beatles Adventure Racing.
Yep,
It's a
Beatles
classic.
Adventure Racing. I had I took along Superman 64 in case anyone wanted to play that.
Oof.
I also felt like we could make some good drinking games out of Super Mario 64.
Mm-hmm.
I brought along Mario Kart
That one's a classic.
64, obviously, the only one on the Nintendo 64. What were some of the other games I brought along? Oh, I brought along
Remember Star Fox 64?
Star Fox 64. I brought that
was a good
along.
one.
But no, it was really cool because we actually had a few people that were like, as they were passing the house, they like slowed down
They're like,
because the
yeah.
garage door is very visible from the street.
For sure.
And we had to wait till it got pretty dark outside,
So you could actually see what
obviously,
you're
so we
doing.
could see what we were doing. We tried playing it a little too early, and they were like,
This isn't optimal.
Yeah, we couldn't see a damn thing trying to play Excitebike 64. All we could hear was the god-awful sound effects.
Yeah, you kind of want to see what you're doing in a racing game.
A little
Or
bit.
in any game for that matter.
In any real, yeah. But we actually had people that would like slow down. We had a couple people that actually like stopped and like parked on the side of the road just to. I think they were like taking pictures or something
Nice.
of it. I was like, damn, we're hella cool. We're that cool.
But I think that brings us to a nice close.
I would say
We appreciate everyone who listens
sat down for an hour and a half to
listen to the
to
meanderings and tangential rantings on video game demos and
video
stuff.
game demos, music. Man, there was a point we were talking about Bohemian Rhapsody.